The strange case of the man who aged overnight, time slip or curse. Imagine going to bed as a young man and waking up the next morning as an old man. Sounds like something out of a horror movie, but for one man, this terrifying phenomenon became a shocking reality. Was it a rare medical condition, a time slip, or something much darker? This is the chilling case of a man whose life changed in a single night, his youth stolen by an unexplained force. A mysterious transformation. It was a quiet evening in a small village on the outskirts of Barcelona, Spain. On the night of March 23, 1978, a man named Carlos Menendez, a 32-year-old schoolteacher, went to bed feeling perfectly normal. He lived alone in a modest apartment and had no known health issues. But when he awoke the next morning, something was terribly wrong. His skin, once smooth, was now wrinkled. His hair, black and full, had turned stark white. His joints ached, and when he stumbled out of bed, his legs felt weak as though they had carried the weight of decades overnight. Panicked, Carlos ran to his bathroom mirror, and what he saw staring back at him made his stomach drop. The face of an old man. His once youthful features were gone, replaced by deep-set wrinkles, sagging skin, and hollow eyes. His hands, once strong and firm, were now bony and covered in veins. His body had seemingly aged over 40 years in a single night. Desperate for answers, Carlos rushed to his neighbor's apartment, banging on the door in desperation. When his neighbor Maria opened the door, she gasped in shock. "Carlos," she whispered, covering her mouth. "What happened to you?" Terrified and confused, Carlos tried to explain that he had gone to bed just hours ago as his normal self. But his voice had changed too, it was hoarse and frail. Maria insisted that he needed medical attention immediately. The hospital doctors were baffled. They ran tests, checking for rare diseases, genetic disorders, or severe allergic reactions that could have caused rapid aging. But nothing explained the horrifying transformation. His DNA matched that of a much older man, but there was no known medical condition that could account for such an extreme, overnight shift. Specialists from across Spain were brought in, yet no one could offer a rational explanation. Carlos wasn't just a victim of a rare disorder. He was a medical impossibility. A sinister warning from the past. As Carlos struggled to understand what had happened to him, an old memory surfaced, one he had long buried. When he was 15, he and his friends had visited a remote monastery deep in the Spanish countryside. The monastery was rumored to be cursed. Local legends told of a monk who had angered a powerful force centuries ago and was punished with accelerated aging. Those who trespassed on the sacred grounds were said to risk the same fate. During that visit, Carlos and his friends had found an ancient wooden box inside the ruins. Inside the box was a strange, rusted coin with symbols none of them recognized. Without thinking, Carlos had pocketed the coin, ignoring the warnings of the locals. Had he unknowingly brought a curse upon himself? For years, nothing unusual happened, and Carlos had forgotten all about the incident until now. Desperate, he sought out the only person he knew who might have answers, a blind mystic named Salvador, known for his knowledge of ancient curses and supernatural afflictions. The unraveling truth. When Carlos met Salvador, the old mystic immediately sensed something was wrong. He placed his frail hands on Carlos's forehead and let out a deep sigh. "You have disturbed something that was never meant to be found," Salvador whispered. "The curse does not act immediately. It waits. It watches. And when it strikes, it takes everything." Carlos was horrified. He told Salvador about the coin and the monastery from his past. Salvador nodded grimly. "That coin was never meant to be taken," he said. "It was a relic of punishment, a symbol of a soul trapped between time. By keeping it, you allowed its power to remain connected to you." Carlos's heart pounded. "Can it be reversed?" he asked desperately. Salvador hesitated. Curses tied to time are the most difficult to break. "But there is a way, if you return the object to its rightful place before your body finishes its unnatural aging." But there was a catch. the curse wasn't broken in time, Carlos would continue aging at an accelerated rate until his body could no longer sustain itself. A race against time. Determined to undo the curse, Carlos embarked on a dangerous journey back to the monastery. It had been over 17 years since he last saw it, and the ruins were now nearly inaccessible. As he arrived, a sudden feeling of unease washed over him. The air was thick, heavy, and almost electric. Felt as though something or someone was watching him. He reached the center of the ruins where he had first taken the coin and placed it back into the wooden box. But just as he did, an unearthly howl echoed through the night. The ground beneath him trembled. The air turned frigid. Then silence. Carlos collapsed, gasping for breath. He could feel something shifting deep inside him. His skin tingled, his joints cracked, and his vision blurred. And then he blacked out. The aftermath. Carlos woke up in a hospital 3 days later. When he looked at his reflection, his face had returned to normal. His body was young again. The aging had reversed as if it had never happened. The doctors, still puzzled, chalked it up to a bizarre medical anomaly. No one could explain how a man who had been in a state of extreme old age suddenly recovered overnight. Carlos knew better. He had escaped something far beyond human comprehension. Was it a time slip or a curse? To this day, scientists and paranormal researchers debate Carlos's case. Some believe he experienced a time slip, where his body somehow momentarily shifted into an alternate timeline where he had aged. Others think it was a supernatural punishment, an ancient curse finally claiming its due. But Carlos never spoke of it again. He left Spain and changed his identity, living a quiet life far from anything that might remind him of that fateful night. Before he disappeared from the public eye, he left behind one chilling warning. Some things are not meant to be disturbed. Some places are meant to be forgotten. If you ever find something ancient, something lost to time, leave it alone. Final thoughts. What really happened to Carlos Menendez? Was it a curse, a supernatural punishment, or a scientific anomaly beyond our understanding? No one knows for sure. But one thing is certain, time is not always what we think it is. If you enjoyed this eerie tale, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of the unexplained. Bell turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.